Hi, welcome to the Robotics channel. Nelly here. Let's continue. In this video, you will use resources such as humans, robots, and mobile robots in the simulation. Before adding the resources, let's bring this feeder process a bit far from the conveyor. The same thing for the sync process. Put it a bit far from the conveyor. Then go to eCatalog. From PM resources, insert human, either ANA or auto, to the 3D world. Place the human in between the feeder process and the first conveyor. Next, go to PM mobile robot and get the mobile robot resources. Put the mobile robot in between the second conveyor and the sync process. Go to robots and get the generic articulated robot. And place the robot in the middle of the first and second conveyor. Every resources will need its transport controller to be able to move. You can get the transport controller from the PM transport controller. Get a mobile robot transport controller. Then human transport controller, and lastly, robot transport controller. You need to connect the resources to their transport controller. For the human transport controller, you need to click the transport controller first, then in the Home tab, click on the interfaces. There are three ways to connect them. First is to click on the space here. Second is clicking on the human. Lastly, click on the list here. It will turn green when it is already connected. Close the interfaces panel. Same thing goes for mobile robot transport controller. Click on the transport controller and turn on interfaces. Then connect it to the mobile robot. But for the robot, it uses a different way to connect. You only need to bring the robot near to the controller and you will see the green arrow, means connection exists. Then release it and it will automatically be connected to the transport controller. And if you move the transport controller, the robot will come along together. This blue circle is for you to rotate the component. If you place your arrow randomly, then the increment of the value will be random. But if you place your arrow in the scale, on the scale, then the increment will be fixed. Now, all the resources are already connected to their transport controller. Next is we need a process node from the PM flow component. We need two of them. The first one, we put it at the start of the first conveyor, and the second one is put at the end of the second conveyor. And you have finished for redesign the layout. So now we need to redefine the process statement. Go to the Process tab and Processes. For the feeder process, change back the transport out destination to next process because now you are using human to transfer the product, not the conveyor. For process node 1, you need to change the transport out destination to 2 component container because it will transport out to the conveyor. For the second process node, as we can see here, it has the same name as the first process node. This will confuse you during you define the flow later. So I changed it to process 2. They can have the same name if only they do the same process. Remember to change the transport in source to from component container. Last is to change back the transport in source to from previous process for sync process. Now you are done redefining the process statement. Open the process flow editor. You can see that the feeder process is still connected to from conveyor process via conveyor. Delete the transport link. And to set the human to do the work, you need to enable the transport controller first, and it will turn yellow. This time, to add it to the flow sequence, instead of clicking on the name, click on the circle. Click the circle of the feeder process and then click on the circle of the first process node. You can see that this is the human icon, means human will do the work at this point. Then click on the circle of the from conveyor process. But before that, remember to disable the human transport controller first. Next is to set the robot to pick up the product, put it into the machine, and put it back on the second conveyor. What you already have here is interpolating transport link. You can change this by doing this. First, enable the robot transport controller, then click on the link here, right click, and there is few options here and choose change transport controller. The icon will change from interpolating to the robot. Do the same for this part. Right click on it and choose change transport controller. Disable the robot controller before continuing the next process. Same thing, delete this transport link by pressing the delete button on the keyboard. Now click on the two conveyor process and the second node process. Lastly, enable the mobile robot transport controller and click on the sync process. You are done reconnecting the flow. Now you need to rearrange the sequence. You see the three dots here. It means that it has multiple processes in it. Click on it first and right click any space below it. Choose add tab here. Here choose process node 1 and it will be like this. The same thing for the last process. Right click anywhere below the three dots here and choose process node 2. The final sequence should look like this. Run your simulation to see if it works. You can see here that the human pick up the cylinder from the side of the feeder process and put it on the conveyor from the side also. To make it more practical, you can change the approach position. This arrow represents the approach location of the resources. To change the position, first click on the feeder process. In the properties panel, resource approach here, select for back. Now the position of the arrow will be changed. Same with the process node 1. Click on it under the properties panel, change its resource approach to front. Next is for the process node 2, change its resource approach to back. And lastly, change the resource approach for the sync process to front. Run your simulation to see the result. Now it looks more practical than before. But the mobile robot space seems too small for it. You can place the sync process further if it is needed. And run your simulation. That's all for this video. See you in the next video about resources utilities. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.